Hello and welcome to another episode with Joe. Now actually we're getting used to, the setup and everything, and we can jump into the very new feature of Thirdweb, but we already spoke about front end, we already spoke about backend, the engine. So now we're jumping naturally into
Insight. This is our data layer. This is indexer. This is the really cool stuff. This is, in my opinion, because it deals with data management and all that nerdy stuff that I like to talk about. But yes, today we're talking about Insight. So if you haven't already, please go back and look at those sessions that we've done before. Very, very helpful in setting context and setting on a flow on how you can get here. So you've had your user sign in. You start kicking off transactions on your backend, and now you might want to see things like who has my NFTs in their wallets? What kind of transaction history is coming on my contracts? What are these events that are getting kicked off, right? All of these kinds of questions that you might have. Insight, which is the Thirdweb indexer product and available on Etherlink, of course, is your answer. So we're going to go through a little bit on how this works and what you can do with it. So let me share my screen as always here. Insight. There we go. Cool. So real quick, I'm Joe. I'm from a solutions engineer here at Thirdweb, and I'm here to help you guys build out your very best apps, projects with our tooling on the Etherlink chain. And so today, Insight. What is Insight? What can I do? Why do I need it? How does this work? So what is Insight? Insight is your access to real-time on-chain data. Full stop. Anytime you think, hey, I wonder how many transactions on-chain I'm doing. I wonder who has my NFTs in their wallet, or I wonder what events are getting fired, right? So once you start thinking about this on-chain data, Insight is your tool. Insight is how you can effectively query. You can do this with some of our other tooling, like our extensions and our SDKs through the backend with our engine product. The difference here is that Insight is going to be your performant way to handle these kinds of queries. And so again, this is done through HTTP calls. So if you are familiar with REST APIs, if you're familiar with handling API calls as it was with our engine product, it's the exact same thing here. Guess what? You're an Insight dev. Congratulations. Add that to your certs. Add that to your resume. You're now a certified blockchain engine dev and blockchain insight dev, right? Really, really cool. Thank you. Congratulations. And so through this, you can do things like any event, any transaction, any token on any of our supported chains, which we have currently 80 plus, Etherlink being one of them on our indexer. And so I want to go through what are some of the things you can do with it, right? So you can access any on-chain data, again, using REST API endpoints. Very, very simple. And it's the fastest way to query any on-chain data. We see speeds between 2 to 300 milliseconds, or yes, milliseconds. That's the small one, right? As I return to you as people do these querying of data, really, really helpful in that you don't have to wait. Your users don't have to wait for these updated dashboards that you can use through these insight results and things like that. And so you can also do things like, hey, I want to pull my blockchain data and throw it anywhere. So you can pull your data from any chain, synchronize it to any platform. Say, hey, I've want to pull a list of users who have my NFT in their wallet. Maybe you're building an allow list for a further collection, and then you want to save that information into an external database, whether it's AWS, right? Or maybe you're doing something a little bit more lower level, like Supabase or Firebase, right? And you gotta just want to pull and push this information. You pull from blockchain and then you push it into another platform that you guys are working with. Maybe you want to kick off email flows, right? You want to pull a list of people who've logged into your system, made some sort of transaction, and then you've associated their email address with their wallet. You can do that through Insight, right? Maybe you want to do things like, hey, we talked about a lot list, we talked about emails. Maybe you want to pull information on events, and that way you can give it feedback to like to applications like DApp Radar, right? Hey, I have X amount of transactions going through my app, right? People should pay attention. If you're doing things like grants, if you're applying for grants and you want to show these kinds of stats, Insight makes it very, very easy for you to pull that kind of information and organize it in your favorite data reporting tool. So this is going to be a very, very handy tool, not only for your development side, right? For your user development, but also for your business development. You guys can pull in this data, see how it looks, organize it, and make business decisions based off the data you pull. And so this means you can do all kinds of data, right? So you can do things like on-chain events. I want to know every time my NFT is burned. I want to know anytime a new NFT is minted. I want to know when it's transferred. I have a custom event and I call it Etherlink Workshop, and I want to know every time someone comes in and redeems a POAP for it, and it just pulls out this event, right? All of these kinds of transactions and events you guys can query against, and again, get a list, get organized in your data. Use this data to build your dashboards. Use this data to build your analytics. Use this data to kick off your other off chain stuff, right? Really, really handy in this. And one of the cool parts about this is that it doesn't use subgraphs, right? So if you are familiar with indexers, you know that they usually have you create a subset of data first, and then you can only query against that subset instead of the entire chain. Insight actually does the opposite. We on Thirdweb actually have a entire chain representation of data, and you guys can query against that. So that means you don't have to worry about how to deal with subgraphs, learning that new language. You can use the API endpoints directly, query your data, and get the results you want. And so these results might include things like tokens and NFT balances for your wallets, right? Very, very popular thing for individuals to use, in that it helps create a picture of the health of your users, right? How many users who come in are people who have the ability to spend in your application? How many users who come in are actually converting in your NFTs, right? How many of them are actually purchasing? How many of them who log into your system are actually engaging in your app, right? Really cool data stuff that you can do here. And so as always, we can try it. We can go through our playground if you haven't already, playground.thirdweb.com. And I'm actually going to share that screen here. And I'll go through a couple of endpoints. You'll see some of the things I have in my wallet. And so this is what it looks like. Here is our playground area. Again, no credit card required, no account sign up needed. You guys can come in and start messing around with some of these endpoints. And how does it work? So on the far left here, we have a kind of, you can think of it as a table of contents. And you can see things like, okay, maybe I want to mess around with getting events, right? And you can do things like, hey, I want to get events on a specific contract. Maybe I want to get events on a contract with a specific signature. Maybe I have two different mints that I have, right? So they both emit a mint event. But because of the different signatures, that's how we can tell the difference between someone minting with through an allow list or through a public mint, right? You can do that here. And so real quick, what does this look like? Let's say I have chains. If I were to look at Etherlink, guess what? We have both already available. But let's say for the majority, I'm just going to do the Ethereum. Actually, I don't. Well, let's just see. Since we're in events, this is actually good. Since we're in events, we're going to go to Etherlink. And then we're going to go ahead and we're just going to query, hey, I want some events that have happened on chain. Guess what? In 1.23 seconds, I got more than, and we've limited it to 20 events here, but I got 20 events with many more. And guess what? Here's some of the things that you can see. You can see things like, what's the chain ID I'm working with? Etherlink, cool. And what's the block number, right? What's that timestamp? What's the hash? What's the address that I was working with? What are some of the raw data that was coming through, right? So these are the events that have come through Etherlink within the late, and this is the latest stuff, right? This is the latest transactions that we're looking at here. Very simple. I can then take this information, further massage it how I see fit for my use case, and send it out. Really, really simple. Now, another thing is maybe I want to get transactions. Maybe I just want to get some transactions that happen, right? Not necessarily events, but maybe I want to get transactions. So we'll actually run that here as well. And so at, again, 20 transactions, we get even more information. So on one of the latest transactions, we actually see from address to address. We see signatures. We see things like how much gas was used, right? We see how much gas was used. If it was interacted with a contract, right? It looks like this transaction wasn't, which is cool. Cool to see. I can do all kinds of things with this insight product in terms of gathering data, in terms of gathering information for myself. And I can do Again, things like I can get NFT balances, right? I can get who owns certain NFTs by contract, who's transferring NFTs, who is working with the meta. I can force metadata refreshes on my collection. So if someone says, hey, I'm not able to see my metadata for an NFT, guess what? Provide them a button, hit this endpoint, and it will refresh that collection metadata for you. Really, really handy. I can do things like, hey, maybe I have a transaction, I want to decode it, right? You can do that through our decodes here. You can do things like resolving. So I can say, I can put anything here. I can put, I want to do, let's see, Vitalik.eth, right? Let's see if he has anything on Etherlink. We can run this and we'll see if Vitalik has anything. Really interesting. He has an address, right? Which is really cool. So it has this data resolve ability for you in your indexer product. So that's insight. That's a little bit on how you can come in, use again, HTTP API endpoints, right? So if we were to actually look at some of these queries here, let's see, let's get a better one. We're going to go ahead and hit this endpoint here, right? So it's just inside.thirdweb.com. You have your endpoint. This is for getting NFTs by owner address. Send this off and you're good to go. Really, really simple and really easy to start working with. Again, that's Insight. That's our indexer product. And it's already available on Etherlink. Go try it. I want everyone to start querying against Etherlink. Go look at your wallets. Go see all your collections. Really, really cool stuff.
It feels like another package was opened from our Lego set. Now we have like all the packages and we know how to make things work and actually put something together. I think we have enough knowledge to play around and take Etherlink development very seriously. So let's jump into Lego Creator Generator, which is Nebula, and we're gonna talk about a very, very exciting, shiny new product of Thirdweb. So let's jump to next session. But so far, I think we have enough pieces to put up something very, very cool on Etherlink. Thank you so much, Joe, and see you in the next episode.
See you in the next one.